Hello, my name is Sean Wally. I work for the Environmental Protection Agency assigned to reviewing and putting together a report of the pros and cons of relicensing the Seabrook nuclear power plant in Seabrook, New Hampshire, which is 40 miles north of Boston and 10 miles south of Portsmouth, New Hampshire, known to locals as the Seabrook Station. It is the largest electrical generating plant in New England. It opened in 1990 and its current license expires March 15th, 2030. The Seabrook Station has applied to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission for a license renewal to continue operating after 2030. Acceptance will allow the plant to plan for new equipment and put newer systems in place in order to last until 2050. In examining the environmental and health impacts of this facility, I discovered that the variety of ways it benefits the surrounding communities greatly outweigh the risks. The task has been to evaluate the risk assessment of both global warming concerns and the potential radiation risks of the Seabrook Station. My report addresses what is the safest for the community. Then my job involves being an advocate and educating citizens about steps to maintain their well-being and to work with other agencies to create regulatory measures and then make sure these regulations are maintained. According to the WHO, there is 1 in 8 deaths annually due to air pollution exposure. Most of the global nations are taking steps to become more accountable in order to preserve our planet and reduce the health concerns brought on by severe climate changes. More than any other single issue, this one has potentially the most drastic and life-threatening consequences. So where do we begin? The perilous hazards of global warming can already be seen in our climate changes. Increased wildfires in California and growing related health concerns in the form of injuries, respiratory illnesses, and the spread of infections and vector-borne diseases. Slides 6, 7, and 8 are interesting. The continued use of nuclear energy requires greater public acceptance because there is a fair amount of public uncertainty about radiation risks and disasters occurring like the ones in 3 Mile Island in 1979, Chernobyl in 1986, and Fukushima in 2011. These events collectively taught all those working with nuclear energy to learn from these mistakes and provided valuable safety improvements. The public needs to be educated about the actual benefits and risks associated with nuclear energy to be able to understand and support the significant contribution this type of energy provides both for man and its ability to restore our planet by reducing carbon emissions. Nuclear power has the lowest emissions of greenhouse gases available to generate electricity. In fact, the use of nuclear power avoids the emissions of nearly 2 billion tons of carbon dioxide every year, the equivalent of taking over 400 million cars off the road per year. It has virtually no greenhouse effect, which is a huge help for reducing global warming. Managing nuclear waste is complicated because spent nuclear fuel is highly radioactive and generates both heat and radiation. The management and disposal of radioactive byproducts safely is critical. It is placed in cement-like drums lined with stainless steel. Seabrook uses bentonite clay canisters and stored underwater to cool for over 9 months. This process reduces heat and radiation. Waste disposal continues to be a challenge, and research is being done to also find other places and ways to store waste. Some countries are finding ways to try to reuse and reprocess this waste, which for the most part has been considered non-renewable until recently. Since there are so many safety regulations put in place by FEMA, Homeland Security, and the NRC to safeguard against any kind of catastrophic risk, the only realistic primary environmental concern is if there was a leak and it gets into the water or into the marsh, it would be a major issue as we are a big fishing community. According to Joe Titone, head of Seabrook's emergency management, he said that it would pretty much destroy our lobstermen, clam, and other seacoast marine life and businesses, as well as much of the fishermen of the seacoast, if there was a significant disaster. Lowering carbon emissions lowers health concerns that would have been aggravated by air pollution. Air pollution was positively associated with death from lung cancer and cardiopulmonary disease, and caused an increase in allergies, asthma, infectious diseases, and pollen-producing ragweed allergens. Therefore, a decrease in carbon emissions helps to reduce these conditions. Many people's lives have less stress because of how much the plant aids their community. The plant employs over 650 people and is an extremely high source of tax revenue. However, some of the public remains extremely concerned about exposure to radiation. Understanding the leaps in research and learning from past mistakes around the globe, the Seabrook Station has many safety precautions in place. This is an instance when understanding and being educated about radiation would reduce stress and concern. Radiation exists everywhere in our environment. It is in the air we breathe, the food we eat, the soil, our homes, sunshine, and even our bodies. This is background radiation. People are also exposed through medical x-rays and color televisions and computers. Very low dose radiation exposure does not have health consequences. A nuclear plant has a series of extraordinary scientifically designed barriers to keep radiation inside the plant. A nuclear plant cannot explode. Even the concern of radiation leaking into the water is extremely unlikely. In short, comprehensive steps have been taken to remove any threat of radiation exposure. In some unforeseen reason, a catastrophe did occur. Evacuation plans have carefully been put into place. Joe Titone felt extremely confident with the evacuation plan. He said, "Our evacuation plans are constantly being updated, and what determines that is the changing of the highway system's construction, and it's not changed, but it's fine-tuned because the evacuation plan is sound. It is absolutely sound. We have practiced this, we rehearsed this, and we have staging areas in place, which is a strength. Everyone receives updated evacuation calendars to stay well informed and to know exactly how to prepare and know what to do in an emergency. Potassium iodide is made available free of charge for everyone within 10 miles of Seabrook Station. It is used to prevent the thyroid gland from absorbing a radioactive form of iodine that might be released during an incident. This protects one against thyroid cancer. It does not protect other body parts. It goes without saying the degree of an incident would determine the dose level of exposure. Most importantly, in many ways, people are safer in the environment because so much time has been put into protecting its citizens from harm that they have well thought through plans in place for all scenarios. The public information that is made available is impressive. Federal, state, and local agencies have provided strict guidelines which are respectfully adhered to. Slide 17 has a nice quote that says, "If we want to clean the air and reduce carbon emissions to deal with climate change, we need a stronger, not weaker, nuclear energy sector. Congress, federal agencies, and the Nuclear Regulatory Commission must work with utilities to preserve our existing reactors in the safest possible way, and to develop the next generation of reactors that will provide cheaper, reliable, carbon-free electricity." Thank you.